Hello crafters, Flavia here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited to share the beautiful note cards I've created using the Spellbinders May 2026 subscription clubs. This month's theme is all about the excitement of summer with a fun nod to the 4th of July. For those of you who are new here, what I will be doing today is walking you through each note card I made, showing off the specific club sets for this month's collection and explaining how I put each note card together. I try to do these videos every month, and if you're curious about the previous month's creations, I've got a whole playlist on my channel. You can find the link in the description box below, and I'll also pop it up in the top right corner of the screen for easy access. Alright, let's jump in. So we are going to begin with the two note cards that I have created using the Spellbinders May 2026 Stitching Die Club, which is named Stitched Sunshine. And right here we have the die set for this month. So with the Stitching Die Club for May 2026, we get a few plates. We have this one that cuts a panel that covers the entire front of an A2 size note card, and you can combine it with this large solid plate to cut out the sunshine rays, and this plate also cuts the tiny holes that we can use to do some stitching. And over here we have this round plate to cut out the face for the sun. By the way, with the stitching die set, the stitching is not required. You can definitely skip the stitching if you don't feel like it, which I actually do sometimes. So over here we have two very similar note cards, one with a sentiment in English and another one with a sentiment in Portuguese. So to make this one, to stamp the sentiments onto the flap of the yellow envelope and onto the front of this note card, I used the Spellbinder stamp and die of the month for May 2026, which is right over here. So with this club, I actually want to put it against a white panel so you can better see the messages. So with this club, we have a set with really great messages that go really well with this month's theme, such as Hope Your Sunshine Starts Off Right. And here is the one that I use for my note card, Sending a Burst of Happy. And then here we have another one that reads May Your Summer Be Perfectly Chill. Then we have another one over here that reads Let's Roll. And then under it, we have another one that reads Party Like It Is 1776. And as I show you all of the different clubs for this month, you will understand why these sentiments are just perfect. And here are the coordinating die plates that we can use to cut out these sentiments if you choose to. And I love having the option to do so. So for this one in English, I did die cut the sentiment, by the way. I stamped it with black pigment ink, and then I used the coordinating die plate to cut out the sentiment. Inside the note card it is blank, and by the way, this is a top folding note card. To do the stitching, I used this thread over here. It's a metallic gold thread, and I did cut the center of my sun from glitter cardstock. I used a really old piece of cardstock that I just happen to have around, and I used the very small plates included in the set to create the smiley face for my son. By the way, before cutting this white panel, I actually added a little bit of blue ink here and there. I basically just used a dirty ink blending brush that had some blue ink left over, so I applied a little bit of blue ink here and there, and then to soften the blue ink onto my white panel, I did spray some homemade shimmer spray. So that's the one in English, and then over here on my left we have one in Portuguese that reads Parabéns, hoje o sol é todo seu, which means congratulations, today the sun is all yours. So to make this sentiment, I used my newest toy, which is the Cricut Joy Extra. So I've recently decided to get this machine. It is just the perfect size, and I used it to write down this sentiment and then to cut around it. And I did cut it twice so I could stack it up to make it stand out a little bit more. I got a couple of pens, and this is the one that I used to write down the sentiment in Portuguese. It is a glitter gel pen. So I am still getting used to the Cricut Joy Extra, but I gotta say that it is very easy to use. So I am very happy with my new toy because I have been able to easily now create and die cut sentiments in Portuguese, which is my first language. So yeah, I will actually have a few other card examples featuring some written sentiments that I created using the Cricut Joy Extra machine. And here is a closer look at the note card. This one is blank inside as well, and I pair it with a yellow matching envelope. I did add a thin blue cardstock strip to bring everything together. So these are the two note cards that I created using the Spellbinders Stitching Die Club for May 2026. Now I'm gonna move these two note cards aside so I can show you the next set. So here we have a craft envelope with a stamped sentiment that reads "Party Like It Is 1776", and inside we have a very festive side folding note card. So to create this sentiment, I used a couple of different subscription clubs, such as the Stamp of the Month to stamp Happy 4th of July inside this note card, and I also used the Stamp and Die Club for May 2026 to stamp and die cut the sentiment at the front of my note card that reads "Grateful for your service". Then for the panel, notice here that this panel has a lot of texture, and that is thanks to an embossing folder, which is right over here. This is a very small embossing folder, perfect for making A2 size note cards, and this folder came with the All Clubs crate. So if you subscribe to the Spellbinders All Clubs crate, you get all of the different subscription clubs along with a few extra sets, a few surprises, and this is one of them. Then to cut out all of these different pieces, I actually used another bonus item, which is right over here. So this die set is another All Clubs crate exclusive for May 2026, and I think it is named Red, White, and Bloom. So with this set we have lots of different plates that we can use to cut out a couple of elements to create note cards for the 4th of July, such as a hat, a flag, USA flag, a couple of flowers and leaves. And here at the front of this note card are all of the die cut pieces that I was able to cut out with this very exclusive die set. By the way, this time I did decide to try emboss over a specialty cardstock. This is a metallic silver cardstock, and I love the result. As a final touch, I did add yellow flat back beads to the center of these flowers, and that's it for this note card. And again, it goes with a craft color envelope that I embellished to better match the note card. Moving on, here we have three very similar note cards. These are the cutest things ever, and for the note cards with a sentiment in English, I did stamp a sentiment onto the flap of the envelope that reads "Let's roll" to match the scene at the front of the note card, which has a suitcase. And again, to stamp the sentiments in English that reads "Let's see where this goes", I used the clear stamp of the month for May 2026. And for the one with a sentiment in Portuguese, this is a birthday note card. Again, I did use my newest toy, which is the Cricut Joy Extra. So to write half of the sentiment in Portuguese, I used a black marker, and then the bottom half, which is Happy Birthday in Portuguese, I actually used the foiling tool to foil this metallic silver Feliz Aniversário. And again, I did use, let me see if I have it, I actually purchased a couple of pens that I can use with the Cricut machine, but to be honest, I have mostly been using the marker that came with the machine, which is the Fine Point 0.4 black marker. And then if you're new to the Cricut Joy, you can also buy this accessory that foils whatever image or sentiment you want to. However, you have to buy a different type of foil to use with this machine because it is not like hot foiling. This doesn't heat up, so it's not going to transfer the foil to the cardstock with the heat. It is actually transferred to the cardstock with the pressure of this tool, so you need a different type of foil to use with this machine. So again, very excited about being able to create fun sentiments in Portuguese now. So let's talk about the design, the scene for each one of these panels. To cut out all of these cuties, I used this die set over here. This is the Spellbinders Small Die of the Month for May 2026, which is named Ready to Roll. So with this set, we have lots of plates, even though it is a small die set, and these plates allow us to cut out pieces to put together a suitcase and a few elements that we can add inside the suitcase, such as a ticket for boarding along with a passport. We also have this metal plate over here that cuts folded shirts that you can place inside the luggage. Then we have these plates up here to cut out a puppy and a cat, and we also have the option to cut out sunglasses to make them even cuter, which is what I did for a couple of these. So here is a closer look at the one with the sentiment in Portuguese. By the way, it is a top folding, and this one has a black suitcase, a puppy and a cat on the top right corner. Then here is a closer look at the first one in English, and all of them have a passport and a boarding ticket inside the carry-on. And this one has a, actually I think I used removable tape because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So if I change my mind later, I can easily just wipe it off the excess with my fingers and keep it without the glasses. But I think it looks cute with the glasses, so I don't know. We'll see. And here is the third one with a sentiment in English. Let's see where this goes. This one, I cut out the carry-on from green cardstock, 2 different shades of green cardstock. I did add some texture to the background panel, to the colored cardstock in the background, and to do so onto all of these panels for these note cards, I used an embossing folder which was released as a subscription club for March 2026. So this is the folder that I used to add texture to the background panels. And to cut out these fun-shaped note cards, notice here that they can easily stand on display and it looks just adorable. So to cut out these fun-shaped note cards, I used another set that was also released as a subscription club, which is this one. I love using this set. I actually use this one a lot, especially to cut out these fun-shaped pieces. So this set was released as the large die of the month for January 2026, and this is the large plate that I used to create my fun-shaped note cards along with this square one. Now let's move these out of the way, even though I don't want to because I think they look adorable, but I have even cuter note cards to show you, but I'm gonna save that for last. So instead, I'm gonna show you this one, which is another one that I created with my Cricut Joy Extra machine to cut out the sentiment in Portuguese. This is a very simple note card, but it has a lot of sparkle, and I wanna give you a closer look so you can check out the amazing texture that this white panel has, thanks to this exclusive embossing folder for May 2026. So this is a very basic note card. It doesn't have a lot of die cut elements, but the texture in the background and all of the sparkle really helps bring this note card to the next level. Before dry embossing the white panel, I did spray some golden shimmer spray, so that's why the background panel is very shimmery. And to make the envelope match the note card, I added a thin cardstock strip. That usually does the trick for me. After dry embossing this panel, I did use an arched die plate included in the Spellbinders Essential Arches die set to cut out this arched white panel. Actually, I actually cut the arched panel before dry embossing it, because if you do the opposite, then you will eliminate all of the fun texture. So you need to die cut whatever you need to die cut before dry embossing it, which is what I did. So let me move this out of the way and show you, let me think. I'm actually gonna show you this one. So this one is featuring 2 different subscription clubs that I haven't shown you yet. So again, I did stamp a sentiment onto the flap of the envelope that reads "Happy to be thinking of you" using the stamp of the month. And here is a super cute note card and fun that I created using two different sets, the large die of the month and the press and foil subscription club for May 2026. So notice the inside is blank, by the way, it is a top folding, and the design is very similar to the note card with the sentiment in Portuguese, which is a note card with an arched panel. So here is a closer look at the note card, and I love all of the sparkle that we get thanks to the hot foiling technique. So at the front of this note card, I did add some die cut flowers and branches on the bottom left corner. Then over here we have a foiled sentiment that reads "Things are looking up," and above my hot foiled and die cut sentiment I added this beautiful bird. And to make this birdie interactive, I did add here a wobble mechanism in the back that I purchased from Spellbinder's website. So I love this feature. I am actually obsessed with this wobble mechanism, and I have been using it a lot. So let me show you the sets that I used to make this note card. Here we have the Press and Foil subscription club for May 2026, and with this month set we have this large plate that we can use to either do the letterpress technique or the hot foiling. And we also have these plates over here that we can use to hot foil many different sentiments at once. And then we have the coordinating die plate to cut all of these sentiments at once if we want to. Along with this set, we also got a foil roll in the color matte silver, which is what I used to hot foil this panel. So moving on, here we have another set of two very similar note cards. One that contains a happy birthday die cut sentiment that I cut from glitter cardstock, and here is the note card. This one has a stamped sentiment that reads "Couldn't resist sending you this." And here is the note card. How fun and bright are these note cards? So this is, by the way, might be my new favorite color of cardstock by Spellbinders. So this is the coral cardstock. The base of the note card is from that colored cardstock. And inside I added white panels where we can write a personal message. So to make these note cards, I combined the new subscription clubs with older sets that I'm gonna show you in a second. To make these two note cards, I began by dry embossing a panel using the Spellbinders embossing folder of the month, which is this one. And after dry embossing a large panel, I cut it to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and then I cut it again in half on a diagonal so I could use the same one panel to make two different note cards. So notice here that both of these note cards, half of it has a dry embossed panel and then a flat surface that I later used to stamp the sentiment. And then to separate the section with the texture from the panel without the texture, I did add a thin cardstock strip onto each one of these note cards, and then above the cardstock strip I stamped my sentiment. So this one has the sentiment "Hello," a cat in between, and then "Hope your summer starts off right." And to cut out the cat, I used the smaller die club, which I showed you earlier. And then to cut out the watermelon and the orange and lemon slices, I used the large die club, which I will show you in a minute. Then I combined it with older sets that I used to cut out some flowers that I placed here and there just for fun. And then to the front of this second note card, I did stamp the sentiment "This calls for a celebration." Then I added a die cut puppy that I cut out using the small die club, and I added a few birthday elements such as a present down here and a set of balloons up here, along with a few die cut stars. And I cut out all of these extra pieces using an older set by Spellbinders, which was never released as a subscription club. So if these sets are still available, I'll make sure to link them in the description box down below so you can check it out. This is the Birthday Wreath add-on die set by Spellbinders. It was released a while ago, but I use it all the time still because it has really great birthday elements that we can use to easily create birthday note cards. So that's it for this set of note cards. Now I am going to show you the next one, which might be my favorite, which is this one. So to create this note card, I used two different clubs, which I'm gonna show you first actually before I give you a closer look at the note card. So to make this note card, I began by creating the stenciled panel using the stencil club for May 2026, which is right over here. So this is a layering stencil set with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different stencils that we can use to create a very colorful background. Then to cut out all of these pieces, I used the large die club, which is right over here, might be my favorite by the way. And with this set we have lots of plates that we can use to cut out a soda pop and a few accessories to make a very fancy drink, such as straws, watermelon, orange or lemon slices, an umbrella, and we also have a few plates over here to create a very cute bird, which I am crazy about. So here is a closer look at the first note card that I have to show you, featuring the large die club. For the sentiment, I stamped the sentiment "Have a Sweet Day" using a very old set that I already misplaced. Actually, it's over here. So this is a small set that I got from the Spellbinders 2024 Advent Calendar for day 19. It has 4 different sentiment options, and it was just the perfect size and the perfect sentiment for this note card, so I just couldn't resist using it. So here is a closer look. And again, to add some movement to this die cut bird, I did use the wobble mechanism in the back, and I just couldn't recommend this mechanism enough. It is the cutest little surprise ever. For the die cut elements, I did go over this one over here with a shimmer pen to add some sparkle, and I did cut out the straw using glitter cardstock, and I love the result. By the way, we can cut out pieces to create a fun rainbow to decorate the soda pop, which is what I did for all of the note cards that I created using this set. Inside we have a stamped sentiment that reads "Happy to be thinking of you," and I did add the other half of my die cut orange. This is the leftover piece from the one that I created for the front of my note card. So since it wasn't going to show anyways, I decided to cut this in half and decorate the inside of my note card. Moving on, this is actually the last set of note cards that I have to show you. And again, we have another one with a sentiment in Portuguese. So to make these note cards, I used the large die set for May 2026 that I just showed you, along with the Spellbinders 3D embossing folder for May 2026, which is this one. It creates really beautiful floral patterns onto the cardstock, and it goes really well with this month's theme. So here is a closer look. Check out the background, how gorgeous it is, and how much texture we get with the 3D embossing folder. So all of these note cards are very similar, and they all have the fun mechanism in the back that adds movement to the die cut bird. This one has the sentiment "Happy Birthday" that I stamped using that surprise, this one from the Crafty Advent Calendar from 2024. And over here we have a very similar one. I used the same stamp, however, because I added way more pressure, this one looks bolder, but it is actually the same stamp. I used the same stamp. And this was by accident, but I actually love both options. I don't mind the bolder look. And again, this one has some movement as well, and it also has a lot of texture in the background panel. Moving on, here is the one with a sentiment in Portuguese. By the way, these are all top folding note cards. This one with the sentiment in Portuguese also has some texture that I created using the 3D embossing folder. It also has a fun little bird with lots of movement, and it has a sentiment in Portuguese that I wrote. Actually, I didn't. My Cricut Joy machine wrote it for me, and I use a fine tip black pen to make the machine write the sentiment for me, which means "Cheers to happiness, brinde à alegria." Again, I am so happy that I can now easily create sentiments in Portuguese. Okay, everyone, so that brings us to the end of today's video, showcasing the note cards that I created with the Spellbinders May 2026 subscription clubs. Now, if you're looking for more details, I've made it super easy for you. Just check out the links in the video description. They will take you straight to my blog, where you can find pictures and a visual supply list of all products used to make today's note cards. Just a heads up, up, the links for the subscription clubs are always updated to the current month's products. So if you're watching this later on, just know that you will be seeing the newest subscription club items. However, I've also included a link to Spellbinder's page where you can see any previous clubs that have now become regular products, though not all of them do. So definitely check that out if you're curious. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some inspiration and ideas for your own projects. Happy crafting, and I'll see you in the next video.